Hi, this is Scott Thatcher. In this video, we're going to examine how to build a matrix in the digital estimator. And in order to do so, we're going to go ahead and bring up our digital estimating program, and we'll go ahead and start to show it right now. First thing we want to do when we're building a matrix is go into Maintenance, File Maintenance, put in your 5 ones for the password, go over to Digital Matrix Evaluation right there, and this is the matrix screen as it appears. First thing we want to do is build matrix. So this button here that talks about building the matrix, you click on that, and you'll notice it highlights 4 corners of the matrix. This is so that if you want to build a matrix in which you just define the 4 corners, it'll go ahead and calculate the results for all of the cells within the matrix. Let's assume for discussion purposes that what we want to do is build a color digital press that runs 10 cents per click, and there are no other charges. It doesn't charge anything less if they're doing more quantities or more originals. So what we do in this first corner is we put in 0.10, tab over to that quantity 900, put in the 0.10 again, tab again, and it'll go over to the 8 originals on the first column there, put in the 0.10, and on the last one it's 8 originals of 900 copies each, and we're going to say 0.10 there. Now, as you can readily see, this is going to just come out as 10 cents for everything. When I tab, it goes to calculate, and if you click on that, it goes ahead and figures the matrix for you automatically. Now, for 10 cents a copy, that's not a big deal. When we look at the next matrix, we're going to have a variable rates in there, and you'll see how quickly we can do that. For right now, we're going to go ahead and assign $300 an hour as the cost per hour for this press. If you need to find out what the hourly rate is for your press, you can either use a budgeted hourly cost program that's available from us, or you can go to NAPL or PIA and take a look and see what they recommend the hourly rate would be for various presses in the industry. A budgeted hourly rate analysis is probably best because in that instance you're using your own equipment in your town with your rental rates and your labor rates. But at any rate, let's go on with the examination here. We're going to look at sales code. Here we're using 100 simply because in our accounting system we use 100 as a revenue account for digital press work. You can use any number you want. And then on this efficiency for the second side, just says that we're going to be charging 100% of the cost for doing the first side. We're going to charge that same amount for the second side. If we'd said 50% there, we would add 10 cents for the front side, 5 cents for the back. In other words, half of what it was. Now, if we look at the black and white portion, what we're saying there is, and I'm just going to delete that and put in 20%. What it's saying there is that if we are doing black and white only, that we're only going to charge 2 cents a copy per click. So our front side will be 2 cents if it's just black and white. It won't be 10 cents. It's going to be 20% of the 10 cents, which is 2 cents. Our press speed on this particular press is 5,000 an hour. And on the press name, what we're going to call this is, we're going to call this a digital .10. Okay, meaning we're just meaning fixed is basically. This is a color press, so we mark it as a color press. We're not going to put any running waste in or fixed waste, and we just click OK. When this little white box here says saved, we know that the information has been saved into the database. And here we just close that out. Now, if we wanted to, at this point, we could go ahead and build a second matrix, which we're going to go ahead and do. And I wanted to close it out so we can show you that if you click maintenance, it doesn't ask you for the password anymore. It assumes because you entered it once that you're still in the same program. So we go ahead and click on Digital Matrix. We're going to build this matrix, only this time we're going to start out with a 0, 10 cents. When we go to 900 copies though, what we're going to do there is we're going to say, okay, let's go to 0.08 on that one. So if they've got 900 copies of that original, we're going to just charge them 8 cents a copy. Over here in the third column, if they have 8 originals of just 1 copy each, we're going to call it 9 cents a copy there. And in this last box, if they've got 8 originals and they want 900 copies of each original, we're going to let them have it for 7 cents. 7 cents a copy. And now when you go to calculate, what it does is it calculates the linear, it does a linear interpolation through all of these boxes to come up with a price for every cell within this matrix. So we don't have to try to figure all of that out. Okay, and I'm going to use the same values as I used before. It's the same basic press. This time I'm going to call it digital variable dollars. Okay, and again, I'm not putting any waste factors in here. Click OK, wait for it to save it. Okay, now let's take a look at actually doing an estimate. There are 3 things basically you want to make sure of when you're doing an estimate. One is you select your customer. You can, if you want, go ahead and select a salesperson that goes with it. If you click on this down arrow here, you'll see that it's got the email for that customer or that sales rep and the phone numbers for them right there. Okay. The next thing you want to do is put in a description. We're going to do, we're using a digital fixed click rate of 10 cents each. Okay. Next thing we want to do is make sure we put in a new quote. Select the press that we want to use, which is going to be 10 cents right there. Now the number of signatures here is basically what we have is we've got a 4/0. It's just printed on one side. It's 4 color, and we're going to quote 100, 500, and 900, just so that we stay within the realm of the digital matrix there. In fact, I think I'll change this to 600. Since if you take a look at the matrix here, we've got 100, we've got that one, we've got 600, we've got 900. It'll be a little easier for us to see what's going on with it there. You could charge, of course you could quote anything you want because it does a linear interpolation on the pricing. Okay, now when we quote this, we should see the pricing come into this blue window down here. We go ahead and click on the red circuit diagram here, which will quote the price of the job. Now if you look for 100, it's going to be 10 cents. 600 will be $60. 900 will be $90. In other words, it's 10 cents a copy regardless. If we were going to do 4/2 plus, in other words, color on both sides, it would actually be double these prices. Go in here and put in 1 here. Change this to 0. Quote it. Now it's 20, 120, and 180. All right, we go back to what we had previously. And if you see it's 10, 60, and 90 again. All right, now what it's doing is it's showing that this is basically all our costs. And if you wanted to, you could also add 30% markup here. Quote it, and then your price would come up with a 30% markup on it. Another thing you might want to do is, what if you decide all of a sudden on this that you need to, they want you to print this, let's say, on a coated cover, or let's say worn enamel. That's $56 a thousand. quote it, and it comes in with the pricing for additional stock. By the way, you could also use that same stock that we had in there previously. This was the house stock. If you wanted to, you could say, okay, let's charge $10 a thousand for that stock. Hit the tab key, and then all three quantities of stock based on the carton levels would change to the 10. You could also just go ahead and change them yourself manually. Quote this. Now your price will be $11 because for 100 it's going to be an extra $1 for the stock, $6 and $9 for the stock. Now let's say that we're using a digital fixed click rate, but we also want to test this. Let's say we want to look at this based on I'll tell you what, let's go on over to do a second part to this job. Is this a new quote? This is a new part? It is. Only we're going to use a digital variable rate. We're going to use a digital variable click rate on this. Everything else will be the same here, except we're going to go ahead and go back to our house stock here with the zero price. Same quantities and everything. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and change this over to the variable press right here. We're still using the same quote number here, but now we have a variable press rate. We have 0 on the stock, quote it, and this is what our price now comes out to be. And if you'll notice, for 900 quantity, our price is $72. And if you go into your matrix and you load that data, this is the variable right here. Notice that it's showing 8 cents a copy, and 8 cents times 900 is $72. If you look at the 600, it's 0.0867, and that, if you multiply it times 600, would come out 52. And of course, for 100, it's 9.0978, which comes out 978. Now this was if you'll notice that it automatically saved both parts of these quotes. Now this was a test just to look at digital matrix, but if we wanted to go back to the first one, you click one and it's not a new part. It loads up the first part. We quote it. It's the 11, but it's got the $10 in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that this has got the house stock in it, quote it, and it's going to be 10, 60, and 90. If we go over to the second part and quote it, this will be 978, 52, and 72. If we wanted to see what the how that pricing looks in terms of the together, you can go in here and this little box right here with the multi-part pricing grid, and it'll show using a digital fixed rate, it's 10, 60, and 90. Using a digital variable click rate, it's 978, 52, and 72. Okay, that's going to be the conclusion of the discussion on our digital matrix, and hope to see you next time. Thank you.